Alright, we are here with Screaming at Demons. How are you guys?
Very, very well.
How are you?
And we have Chris, Shem, and Russell. Greetings.
Greetings.
I'm hearing great things about what's percolating.
Where did you hear them?
Well, I'm online, so I'm seeing all sorts of postings and pictures and all of that good stuff. So we know we got Our Time and All of Me recorded recently. We'll be talking about that.
Right. Yes.
We'll be talking about the Rockstar video and all that. But let's go back a little bit just so we know kind of backgrounds. Chris, where did you grow up and get into music?
Yeah, I'm originally from New York. I grew up out there. I moved to California about 8 years ago. I've been playing in a few different rock bands, around, and then I met Jim and teamed up with these guys.
What part of New York?
I grew up on Long Island,
Okay.
out in East Hampton, and then I went to college upstate New York. I went to school for jazz and did that a little bit, and then moved out to LA. And
Now, growing up, who were like some of your musical heroes who really inspired you to
oh
do
man,
this?
I was weird. I was all over the place. I loved George Clinton and like a lot of funk stuff. I loved classic rock like Jimi Hendrix and all that, and then kind of like '90s rock too, Green Day and Stone Temple, and all those kind of mixed together really influenced my playing.
Okay. And Shem, we know you're from Australia, way down under.
Way down.
So, growing up, who were like some of your musical heroes who really inspired you to want to do this?
The main hero was a band called Silverchair. The reason was because they were obviously internationally famous in the mid-90s, and they lived 2 hours north of me, and they were my age. So literally when I found them, that was when I went into my dad's studio and was like, hey Dad, I'm going to be a rock star. And he said, okay, what are you going to play? And I said, what do you mean what am I going to play? I'm going to be a rock star. Well, I have to play something. And he said, you have to learn how to play an instrument. And so then I had to sort of play catch up with the whole rock star idea. Because I didn't care about music, I just cared about like being up there.
Yeah.
And then as I discovered music, I realized how cool the whole concept was. I started to really dig into bands, and then I started to really dig into I started to realize why I had been listening to music my whole life. I didn't really think of it as something that I could do until Silverchair, because I saw like it was like a mirror. Like they were my age,
It was possible.
my neighborhood. Yeah,
There was a
possible.
connection.
It was an attainable
If
goal.
they could do it, I could
Exactly.
possibly do
But
it.
I've been listening to my dad's record collection. I've been listening to the Beatles and the Sex Pistols and MC5 and Zeppelin and is that you?
No.
That's totally you.
That's my butt.
That's fucking you. And it all sort of came together, and I realized that I already had the songs in my mind and the rudiments and the rhythms and I understand what drums did in relation to bass and guitar and then melody on top and how space was created for the melody, and I was like, oh, I already kind of get it. So I started writing songs, and then as soon as I wrote my first song, it was game over. I just was like, well, that's what I do now.
Mm-hmm. Been developing ever since.
Yeah, I'll be developing till I die.
Yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
Once you stop growing, you're on the way down.
You're going backwards. Yeah.
And how about you, Russell? Where did you grow up, and who were your heroes?
I'm from Bangladesh originally.
Yes.
My heroes, my God. I learned how to play guitar. What was it? Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath.
The heavy
Judas
stuff.
Priest, Scorpions, all that stuff. Yeah. Well, Black Sabbath mostly.
Tony Iommi was the
Yeah.
guy.
Led Zeppelin, of course.
Yep.
And I think the biggest one was Pink Floyd, actually. Gilmore. He's the reason I play guitar, actually.
So that mixture of the blues and the atmospheric
Yeah,
and
very melodic.
progressive
Yeah.
and
So I started. Then I moved here, went to college.
And how did you meet these guys?
Well, I met Shim about 11, 12 years?
Let's say 10.
10 years ago. We both actually kind of moved at the same time to LA.
Okay.
And we just met through a mutual friend of ours, Dave Weiderman. And he kind of said we should hang out, and then we just became friends. And after that, he went his way, I went my way, and then we met again after 10. Yeah, crazy.
Look a while, yeah. Basically, I was on. We met the first week that I landed.
Okay.
and we were friends while the band was working and doing our thing. And then I went on tour. We lost touch for a little while I was on tour, because when you go on tour, you wind up losing touch with people. Yeah. And then I came back, and we just sort of started, like, we'd jammed and written songs and done stuff together on and off when we first met. And the reason that the interesting part of the story is the very first night that we met, I hadn't heard Russell play, Russell hadn't heard me sing, he hadn't heard Sick Puppies, nothing. And we just hung out for a few hours and listened to a band, had a few drinks and talked, and he said to me, we're going to do something one day. We're going to do something one day. And it was very offhand. But the reason that I remembered it was because it was so obnoxious for someone on the first meeting to be like, we're going to work together and invest a whole bunch of time and energy into something. Yeah. I was like, we just met. And 10 years later, here we are, investing everything we have into this new band, Screaming at Demons. And
it's kind of lucky, though, to say that to everyone.
Do you get to say that to everyone?
I say that to everyone.
The one
it's like running the lottery.
Yeah,
I just happen to be the guy that's actually stuck with it.
You plant a lot of seeds, one of them's got to sprout.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you just ask his wife.
Okay, so the name Screaming at Demons, tell us about the origin of the name.
The name came about because basically around the same time that my previous band split, I decided to do a couple of solo shows. And I was already working with Russell, and we were building the band, writing the songs and figuring out what we were going to do. And I decided I'd do a couple of solo shows, and I asked Russell if he'd come along and do it. And he said yes, and he came along, and we played a lot of Sick Puppy songs and old songs of mine, and then a couple of new songs. But I didn't want to call it the Shimon Moore Show. I wanted to call it something, whatever it was. And a friend of mine who was a comic book designer designed the cover, like the poster. And it was a picture of me screaming down at this demonic-looking thing screaming up at me. And as soon as I saw the picture, I thought, oh, Screaming at Demons. And I just went, oh, that's cool, it's got a good ring to it, I'll call the show. It was like a two or three acoustic shows, an evening with Shim. And it was like such an off, like it was not important, it was just really, I want to get something done before I go home for Christmas. I want to get back out there. And everyone fell in love with the show, the vibe, Russell, the way we played together, the new songs. Everyone said, when do we get new Screaming at Demons music? When's Screaming at Demons coming out? Where's the new Screaming at Demons? And suddenly it was a name. And it was something that was a brand, and now I'm like, okay, I guess we're Screaming at Demons. I guess that's the band name. So
we were trying Baklava, it didn't work.
We did. We tried Baklava, but everyone got tongue-tied.
Yeah,
and people would forget it, and the radio didn't want to play it, so we went with Screaming at Demons. And everyone has been really supportive so far, man. Like, we've been very fortunate.
Very
fortunate. And I really was, I mean, finding a band name is very... I remember when we came up with Sick Puppies, I don't know about your band name or yours, but like... When we came up with Sick Puppies, we had pages and pages of terrible names.
Going through the dictionary.
It's so, and then you try to put like creating oxymorons of things. Well, maybe this is cool. Does this symbolize us as a band? And like it doesn't really matter. I mean, Foo Fighters is the best example. Biggest band of the last 20 years. And even they admit their name sucks. They made their own documentary, and at the end he was like, "It's terrible, terrible band."
Go back there, change it.
Yeah, and I'm like, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the band makes the name, and the music becomes synonymous with the name, and hopefully synonymous with good music. Luckily, we happen to find a name that has a good ring to it, and it has a meaning. And for me, and I think all of us in our own ways, we've come from a place where people have tried to fuck with us. And to have a musical outlet to be able to scream back at that power that fights against you is a very it's very good to have the outlet. It's very symbolic for where all of us have come from in our different ways. A lot of the places that we've come from are very similar, which is why we've found home in this band. But also it's very much like every individual has their demons, and you can choose to deal with them, to wrestle with them, or to scream at them, per se. And so we're choosing to, just full steam ahead.
Well, it's a name that has a bit of an edge to it, but just the way it's constructed, there's an artistic side to it. So makes you start to wonder, what does that mean? It's not completely like a death metal band name, so
it can mean anything.
It really does.
I think the good thing about it is it spans across so many, whatever it means to the individual, checking it out is what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can just make it their own.
Yeah.
Whether it's you're fighting your own demon or whatever it means to you.
Yeah, amazing stuff. So now tell us a little bit about the Rockstar song and video and all about the support of the homeless.
Okay, the homeless rock stars thing came about originally because Nigel Skeet is a good friend of mine. He actually is a good friend of Russell's as well. We met around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
But Nigel came up with this idea when he moved to Redding, California, because he used to work on Skid Row in Los Angeles. So Skid Row in Los Angeles is obviously pretty hardcore. And he moved up to Redding, which is a much more chill atmosphere, family vibe. And the people in Redding said, be careful about the homeless community. Got to watch out for the homeless people. And Nigel is 100% rock star. Like, he's fuck the power, all that stuff. And when he heard this bully mentality, he basically said, all right, well, what would happen if I took that homeless community and gave them hair and makeup and a rock and roll photo shoot and an interview and just decided to just flip it on its head, which he did. And he told the papers about it, and he told the news about it, and everyone started to hone in. And then he was on the front page of the newspaper, and he was on the 7 Night News, and everyone started to pay attention to what he was doing. And he didn't do it as a spokesperson, he did it as more of a middle finger to the people who said you can't, which is what rock and roll is. So then he accidentally created Homeless Rock Stars. And once he realized that he had this thing because the papers had called, the news had called, and then the community had basically said, we want to do a gallery showing and we want to be involved. And the community suddenly came to his doorstep and said, how can we help? How can we be involved? We're now changing our perspective. Which is the one thing that is interesting with charitable initiatives in general. They'll try to raise money to put a Band-Aid on a problem. And what this particular charity is doing by way of rock and roll is changing perspective. He's not focusing on the homeless. They happen to be in the room. He's focusing on the community.
Yeah.
And the homeless
Society.
happen to be a member of the community. So he's focusing on the community coming into a rock and roll photo shoot where a person who happens to be homeless has just had hair and makeup, a photo shoot, a rock and roll interview, and now they're fully realized. The reason why people like yourself want to do an interview with people like us is because we get to spend all day, every day doing what we love. We realize our dreams, we focus on our passion, we try to create things that are bigger than ourselves. And when you put someone in hair and makeup in a photo shoot, the natural inclination for that spirit is to become realized. What can I do next? And that's what fumbled everybody. Even Nigel was surprised. And you can I'll give you his number. You can call him out,
yeah.
And it was this thing where he suddenly realized half the reason why rock stars continue to be rock stars is because they're treated like rock stars. And when you treat anyone like that, they're bound to do something special. So the community would walk into the photo studio where Nigel had just run them through the hair, makeup, and everything else, and the people would walk in and say, where are the homeless people? Because all we see are rock stars. And he suddenly realized he was onto something. And he called me and he said, could you write a song that would be like a rock and roll theme song for this? And I said, of course. And I said, what do you want it to say? And he told me, I just want a song that says, I'm a rock star. And we talked about the whole movement and the mentality and what it's achieving, and I wrote the song based off that conversation. And we put it together, and it's a very simple 2 minutes and 45 seconds or whatever it is. And once I had the song, I sort of realized, well, it was one of those things where Russell and I had been working together for a while, Chris and I had just met, and things started to sort of come together. And the same way that with Sick Puppies a while ago, the Free Hugs clip sort of came around at the right time, this just happened to come around at the right time. So I called Nigel and I said, how would you feel about me going and shooting a video like the Free Hugs video, where it promotes everything, it promotes the band, the song, the cause. And he said, of course. I went up and I shot it, and then the next thing was, you know, iTunes and Spotify wind up making it a little bit difficult for independent bands to put their music out on their services. And then the contracts and the fees and the splits, it all gets very complex, and it's not really artist-friendly per se. So I basically decided, what if we cut that out of the equation, and instead we tell people who see the video, because the video would, let them know about the movement and hopefully inspire them to want to get involved. But when you see a video like that, like you see a documentary on Netflix or National Geographic, it can be very hard to get off your ass and get involved. So instead, what if we just say, here's the song, if you like it, you can donate to the cause and get a free copy of the song. Bang.
Yeah.
Donate $1.99 by texting Rockstar to this number that's on the screen. Screaming at Demon sends you a copy of the song, and Homeless Rockstars gets a donation. And you can donate as much as you want.
Yes.
And then everyone wins. And it all just sort of made sense, and it really helped a lot of people. And already, we're only 2 or 3 weeks in at the moment, and Homeless Rockstars the donations are coming in. So it's really been very, really, really positive.
It shows you a combination of, entertainment and helping. It's just, it goes hand in hand.
That's what rock and roll's
really
always
seamless.
been about. Is change and revolution. And
Yeah.
instead of giving it away to major corporations, give it to the people that need it the most.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's something you're doing naturally, writing songs and making music.
Right.
Now, will Rockstar be on the album?
We don't know. We don't know yet. I mean, it could be, it could not be. It depends. The beautiful thing about this particular band is that it's up to us.
Yeah.
We've donated that song to Homeless Rockstars, and we own the song, and we've decided to let the people have access to that song by donation to Homeless Rockstars. But, we have a lot of songs that we're working on and a great new sound that we're doing, which we're really stoked about. So, we talk about all the new ways of what we're doing every day, and we're not sure. We're just finding out what works for us and then what the best thing is for the band and the audience.
Well, that's what's great about being in control of your own destiny. You can call the shots.
Yeah.
If it makes sense organically to add it or not, there's nobody telling you what you can and can't do.
Unfortunately for us, it's all happening so quickly, so we're kind of just formulating the plan as we go, taking it day by day as new opportunities arise.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the 2 new singles, Our Time and All of Me. Obviously, you guys are looking for a drummer, but through your friendship...
We found a pretty good one.
Yeah, I hear. He's an up-and-comer.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good right now.
He's okay.
Yeah. So tell us how you got to know Chad and the process of bringing him in.
Yeah, I mean, I had done a bunch of gigs with Chad with my last band and became friends with him just from doing these shows. And
You were playing in a band on the bill, or you played in the band with
Yeah, I was opening up for him with my previous band, Rapscallions,
Okay.
and he has this side project called Chad Smith's Bombastic Meat Bats.
Yeah.
So we had done a couple shows together. We were hanging out backstage, talking, and we, realized that, he has a house in the hometown that I'm from, and we know a bunch of the same people, and we kind of got to talking over that. So we kept in touch, and then this opportunity came up where, we're working with the mixer Chris Rodalgi right now, and he wants to put real drums on the new songs because we've been, programming everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, who's better to have come in than Chad Smith? So I gave him a call, and I was kind of shocked when he agreed to do it. I hit him up, and I was like, do you want to play on these 2 new songs? And he goes, if we do it on Tuesday, sure. And that was it. We came in, and I think it sounds pretty...
It's good to have friends.
Definitely.
And you did this year?
No.
Oh,
We did
okay.
this at NRG, which is one of the
NRG,
the
North
best
Hollywood.
historical Hollywood studios.
And the
Fantastic.
funny thing is, how we met was at Jay Baumgartner's
Yeah,
house, who owns the
that's true.
studio. We were at
Yeah.
a party at Jay's house, and
We just started hanging out.
yeah.
What a better studio to do it at. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, it's
They're really-
legendary.
Monster
really is
sound.
all the
nice.
big records.
The
It was a little bit
heavyweights.
interesting, the first time, because up until now, the drums that have been on our stuff I've programmed, and then it was like, okay, and Russell and I produced the music together, so we had a live drummer and we were producing drums, and it was very, it was like an out-of-body experience for the first time that we're producing a third-party musician. Is Chad Smith in the biggest recording studio ever with all the bells and whistles. And I have to push the button to talk back, to say, hey, can you change something?
Yeah.
I wanted to shoot myself in the face. I'm like, who are you to tell him to change anything?
The crazy part was this: when he was singing our song, and
Yeah.
then he goes,
You know what's funny?
He wasn't supposed to play in both songs.
Yeah.
He played the first one. He goes, okay, what else have you got? And I just by
Oh,
chance
just started
had
on
the
one
other-
song?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
He was
I-
only supposed to play one.
Yeah, and then I just had. Luckily, I had the session.
Yeah.
The other session.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have this. He was
Yeah.
like, this.
He was like, yeah, let's do
He
it.
was really into
And the
it,
funny
man.
thing is,
He
I
loved
haven't
it.
told you guys, but I was comping the stuff together just before you showed up. I was comping him. When you get to the third chorus, there's a section in there where you can hear. You won't hear it in the track, but you can hear him over the drums. He's going, ah! He's singing over the drums. He's singing while he's playing. It's in the back, but when you solo it, when you're putting it together, you can hear it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's
We're
crazy.
very honored, I guess.
Yeah,
And,
100%.
Sure.
100%.
and we have so many people like really helping us. You know, like big name people that don't really have to, but they believe in us. Like,
Yeah.
Like Chris Lord-Alge is one of
like,
the biggest mixers.
he
course.
doesn't have to do this. Like,
It's mixed
and
hundreds of
yeah, and
hits.
Steve
Yeah.
Slate put together a drum package.
Mark Needham.
And Mark Needham,
Yeah.
who mixed all of my records. He did Imagine Dragons and The Killers and Chris Isaac and my records as well.
Yeah,
but
he
also
mixed the
he mixed Rockstar.
Okay.
I just took the song to him and I said, could you please help us? And he said, of course. People are coming out of the woodwork to help this band, and we don't really know why. We're just very, very appreciative.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with this indie community. You know, there are still record labels and deals and stuff out there, but this seems to be the musicians are pulling together more because, in a sense, they're being bossed around less. Everybody's kind of realizing. You go to a lot of these festivals and shows, there's more camaraderie than ever because
Well,
they're not on competing labels.
Yeah. But
They
that's
have
what
the
you're
say in
saying.
what they're doing.
but that's what you're saying is they're dealing with the direct people. There's no managers, nothing.
That's it.
They're coming to us directly, and we are talking as friends.
There's a kindred
As
spirit.
Exactly. There's not a business part about it. There's
Yeah.
like they believe in us. They're our friends, and that's what we would do. We help our friends.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know?
Yeah,
That's
you're
what
not, you're not
it is, yeah.
booking them. You're just asking them, "Hey,
Yeah.
we're doing this. Any way you can help?" And
And that's
yeah,
how
I'm
it should
seeing
be,
that
man.
across the board.
We all need to band together and help each other as a music community.
Yeah,
And that's
Because
when that's when the best stuff comes out.
because right now all these technology companies are finding out all these new ways to use our music, and a lot of times they're leaving the musician out, or we're the last ones to know. But as long as you're in control of your own destiny, you can call some of those shots, you know. And your record company's not telling you where your music is being used. You're actually having a say. And like the Rockstar, you know, opportunity, you're able to help people or try different styles or, you know, all of that. It's a very exciting time to be forming this band.
Definitely.
And we've all done it, you know. We've all toured. We've
Yeah.
all had the experience of doing everything. So
It's like that. You remember that show? I know it's a strange analogy, but you remember that Tim Allen sitcom Home Improvement?
Oh,
Sure.
of
Remember
course.
Tool Time?
yeah.
That show was about what not to do.
Yep.
It was a home improvement show, but the irony was the show was about everything you shouldn't do. We have been through the ringer over the last few years of everything you shouldn't do, and now we all get to bring in this experience of, okay, we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't do this. And then when you have all the shouldn'ts, you're left with a very simple timeline of, well, here's what we should do. So it's very fortunate that we're working together.
Yeah.
Fun fact: do you know that Tim Allen was busted with 600 pounds of coke in his trunk?
I did not. Tell me more.
That happened.
That happened?
Yeah, and he
Did
was
you
gonna
know
go to
Michael J.
jail.
Fox got arrested because he was doing some insider betting or something?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it. No, you're thinking of Back to the Future, the almanac.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Tim Allen's from North Hollywood, right by NRG, so
Yeah,
it's all
I got it.
tied together.
I can't believe you actually went. That was like, there was levels to that shit.
Yeah.
Normally it's not that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you want to know a
Fucking-
Michael
fucking
J.
this shit,
Fox fact, there was a
Cut it.
little
Cut it. It's
burger
not
place.
cool. It's not cool. Nerdy. Nerd meter.
Right by the Guitar Center, there's a little burger place back in the day, Great American Burger or whatever.
Which
there was
one?
it's
No, which Guitar Center?
the Guitar Center on Sunset.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's
And
Sunset Grill now.
this was way back before cell phones. He used to use the payphone there as his so-called office. So when he go auditions before he got the TV show, he would leave that number as his callback number because he was virtually homeless. And he literally got the call that he got the gig on the big TV show.
You're talking about Michael J. Fox, right?
Yeah, Michael
I saw
J.
this
Fox.
one.
Family
Yeah,
Ties.
yeah.
That's cool.
And he's on the phone with his
On the
Asian, like,
payphone.
yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
we should watch Family Ties like we
All
should
the
wa-
time.
All the time.
So, all tied together. Do it yourself. Take what you have and make the most of it rather than sit here and complain about what we don't have.
But I would say it's hard for someone to start. But we all have friends. We've done this before, so it was kind of easier for. It is hard to do it yourself, you know. But It's possible.
But
It's
you have
very-
no one else to blame if it fails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would rather fail on your own terms rather than be on a boat that somebody
Trust
else sunk.
me, you would much rather fail on your. I can speak from experience.
Yeah.
You would much rather fail on your own terms than
Yeah, if you don't have a hand on the wheel,
Yeah.
it's very frustrating.
yeah. It's not much fun. It just feels like wasted time.
Yeah.
But we're actually in the process of figuring out possibly doing a film about the idea of what we're all talking about, which is just to document what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then the thing is that, especially my experience, every time I would be on tour, every time I would do a show, there'd be a kid that would come up and say, "Hey man, how do I do what you do?" And there are a million ways to cut it. There's a million ways, and when there are a million ways to cut it, there's a million ways to get ripped off.
Sure.
So there, as yet, I haven't found any film or visual tutorial kind of thing about what we do specifically in the time of the music industry when everyone knows everything and no one knows anything. Like no one really knows.
There's
what's
not a
going
sure
on.
way to
There's
do
no
it,
sure
but
way
there's
of anything.
100 different ways people are doing it.
And so the thing is that information is really important. So we're lucky that we have, going back to what you were saying, we're lucky that we have a lot of information and we have a lot of education and people that we can call, but there's a lot of kids out there that don't have that. And that doesn't mean that they should immediately sign with a major label or they should immediately give away rights that they shouldn't have to, and that they should immediately be, advised or bullied or pushed into making decisions that they don't need to, simply because they don't have anyone available to them to give them the information. So, as much as homeless rock stars, we're lucky we make music, we don't work a day job, we have time available to us and influence to help other people in that regard. I think the most important people that we should be helping are young artists like we were when we started.
Yeah.
Because if someone had been able to tell me some of the stuff that I know now, I could be a lot better off.
Sure. Well, again, the process of doing what you're doing is the next best thing to enjoying the music. It's finding out how the music was created, how you're charting your own course, how you're overcoming the challenges that are presented. So it's a fantastic idea to
It's funny, it is
help.
possible to fix all this. It is. I think people are just scared to take that chance to fix it and just do it.
It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword because
No one's willing to boycott just to get something better.
no one's willing to boycott
Yeah.
because there's not
Scary.
there's not a lot of money going around.
Yeah.
So why would you take the risk? And then the second half is, why would you take the risk when no one knows the absolute answer? And on top of that, you've got all of these kids who, if you don't inform them, then you're able to take advantage of them, and you can make money. So why would you give them that information?
And the bigger artists, they have deals with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, they're not gonna boycott that.
There's not many people in a position
They'll
that
get
are able
sued.
to. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people in a position able to give
It's
the
the little,
information.
but it's the little people that are suffering.
Yeah.
But the big people have deals with these big companies, so they're good.
They're
They're
fine.
making their money.
Right.
But the little people don't have the power to make that deal.
Sure. So with the start of Our Time and All of Me, what can we expect from the rest of the album? I know there's different flavors and different styles and
A lot of
different
ethnicity.
sounds.
A lot of ethnicity.
Traditional Bangladesh tunes.
Bangladesh tunes.
A lot of rhythms.
Very big stadium sound, I would
Yeah,
say.
that's what it is.
Anthems.
Kind of a hybrid of
We'll
different...
play you some after we're done. We
Okay.
can't show you guys, unfortunately, but
Soon.
soon enough. It's very much a. This is one of, and I wouldn't normally do this, but Russell is very, very good at production, but also he's very good at melodies, pop melodies. When I worked in my previous band, and I don't know we'll talk about your experience, but we're from rock bands.
Yeah.
Russell's from a rock band too, but he's also had a lot of experience producing pop music. So the blend of being able to create rock and roll music that is rock, that has a rock attitude and a rock sound and feel, but then also you put on top of it this pop melody, I guess is the best way to put it, because it's a subtle change, it's a subtle difference. And I don't think there's no one of us that didn't listen to Michael Jackson or the Beach Boys or the Beatles. Great music. It happens to be pop. Nirvana. Jesus, Nirvana was pop. Nirvana's melodies, they're
You can always add distortion and volume.
You can always add that stuff. And as a guy who was in a rock band for better part of a decade, there are rock changes that ultimately can limit you You don't realize it though because you're used to doing it. And there are subtle things that you can do, but you need someone like Russell to come in and tell you what that thing
Because
is.
my whole time I've known him, I knew he had that pop sensibility. He had that, because if you put him, take a rock away from him and just have him sing pop, he would be like Ed Sheeran. He sounds like that. So I always saw that in him, that pop sensibility. And I said, dude, and I really experimented. We experimented so many different things in the beginning. We even didn't do rock at one point.
Yeah.
We're just trying to experiment to find something new, you know? Because I said, if we're doing something, it has to be a new sound. So then we can, you know, form this hybrid thing. So, but he had that. He had that falsetto. He had the training to do that. He could be harsh, but he could be the most mellowest things. I will play you some stuff, you understand.
Yeah.
Fun, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what's great is to have all those textures.
That's why it was so easy, you know.
That's one of the things that's going to be really interesting about finding the band, the sound, is because we're discovering it now and we're finding it and we're doing it in a way that's, you know, Homeless Rock Stars is great, and then, you know, Chad Smith coming on, Steve Slate, CLA, they're helping us with, you know, getting this music out, but it's just getting started. It's not like we have an album totally finished and now we have to worry about putting it out. We're doing it as we go. So we're finding all of these things as we go, and it's only getting better. And, you know, it's really... You know, I think this is the best. For me, this is the best time personally in my career.
Yeah.
This is the most interesting thing. Every day gets different. Every day we get a phone call from Chris, like, "Hey, Chad's going to play on our record." I'm like, "Well, what?"
Yeah. Then he calls one day. Russell's in our band. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is an exciting time. Scary if you're not willing to take risks, but if you're ready to fly out there without a net, some of the greatest opportunities ever.
And well, that's the thing that I think people don't realize. Another thing, I'm going to keep talking you up, but you know, taking risks. The idea of taking risks. If you were to not take a risk, that's a big risk, man. Because then your biggest risk is getting lost in the mix of everyone else.
You're fitting in rather than standing
doing
out.
The same thing, and unless you happen to be the first person that found that sound, unless you are Guns N' Roses or Nirvana who found the sound and you were the person who set that sound and that trend. Finding the sound is very difficult, and you know, people say like, "Oh man, you sure you want to do something different? It's a risk." How is that a risk? You know?
Yeah,
No
the risk
risk,
is
no
blending
reward.
in and being
Yeah.
You have to be different to be
Yeah.
noticed.
the same.
He's the one that Russell's the one that keeps coming back. Like we do something, we keep going over it, and he's like, "Hey, well, where's the sound? What's the sound?" And it drives me fucking nuts because I'm like, "Well, it sounds good to me," and he's like, "Yeah, but it sounds like a bunch of other stuff. So where's the sound?" I'm like, "Well, maybe that's why it sounds good to me." Because as much as I'm a singer and a professional, I'm also an audience member, and maybe I need to sort of jump the other side of the fence for a while and just figure it out. So.
Shim has a lot of different potentials, and I hope I can. We're still learning. Even he's helping me find my end of it.
Yeah.
And you know, now, especially Chris coming in, everyone's helping everyone find this thing that we never done before, and it's just bringing out all these things that we had in us, and it's making something new. So that's the most exciting thing about this whole project. I wake up really excited every day, just thinking, what are we going to do today? What's going to happen today? And it's been a long time since all of us had that.
No, I haven't felt like that for 10 fucking years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
It's
the
a
most
blank
exciting
canvas. You can
project.
paint any colors and any textures you want.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you guys are looking for a fourth member, right?
Well, I mean,
I think this is the band, but we're gonna
Okay.
bring on someone, touring musicians, to play with us.
Okay,
Eventually,
so you're
maybe. If
that's the name of the album. Eventually, maybe.
That's a great idea.
Follow up to
I think I'm gonna write that. I'm
Yeah,
seriously writing that
eventually
down.
maybe.
That's
That's
fucking
great.
awesome.
Well, if it's the right person, maybe. I mean, we've got to.
It depends. You see, this is the problem with bands. Okay, we all, what do you call it, the weight thing? Like you're gonna pull our weight.
Right.
It
We all gain
equally.
weight.
We all gain weight together,
Beer.
Yeah, and then we all go and do the insanity workout together.
together. and-
Eventually, I'm seriously writing that.
Yeah.
Eventually, maybe that's tight.
No, but the fact is that's why it works. So if we have a fourth member, he has to. What does he bring to the table? It cannot be someone that comes in. Okay, everyone's doing the work, and we're just playing. It cannot be. That's not what we wanted.
That's one of it's a good, very important point. That's one of the first thing that comes up when the reason that we're talking about possibly creating a film about educating young people about how to conduct themselves in the music industry, what to watch out for, what to be aware of. One of the first things that I used to tell kids when they'd come to me after gigs, they'd say, tell me what to do. I'm like, all right, tell me about you and your music and your band. And they'd talk about, well, you know, my next door neighbor started playing drums, but he's, you know, he gets high a lot and he doesn't really show up for rehearsal. I'm like, cool, cut him. Because if he's not pulling his weight, why are you giving him an equal share of all of the work that you're now doing? And it's no different than a regular business.
Yeah.
People think about rock stars and music, and they think that you sit around drinking beer, fucking chicks, and going on tour and whatever else is in the, you know, and it ain't like that. It's called the music business for a reason, you know. And Chris is the
And girls don't
man.
like women. Like girls don't like rock stars anymore because they know they're broke.
That's
So,
actually true.
yeah,
Yeah, it used
so,
to be like that.
yeah.
You know, most of the rock stars that I know, they got really rich lawyer wives. Paying for their stuff, or girlfriends, and they sleep on the couch and they come and go as they please. But Chris is the man when it comes to the business side of things.
Yeah, he is. He's the mastermind.
And that's why this whole band has sort of come together and it's working out so well, because if it wasn't for Chris, we'd just be sort of sitting around writing tunes, and Chris is a songwriter and a bass player as well, but we'd just be doing our thing and we're waiting for someone like him to kind of show up and not do their job completely.
Yeah.
He's on the phone, he's like, he knows people, he's calling, he's
he
figuring
wakes
out
up
deals.
7 in the morning every day.
I wake up to
working.
texts from him and I don't want to deal with
Me
it.
too. But I'm up too. I'm up as up. So
Yeah, I'm not.
So it's really the balance.
Yeah.
Everybody in the band does something, then what another
right.
does.
That's
that's
why
Chris
band-
doing the business, Shim,
Jerking off.
do the drums, and
Yeah.
I look good. So it's good.
Yeah, his hair.
Yeah, I
His
do my hair.
Yeah.
There you
He wakes
go.
up and does his hair. I wake up, la 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 la, and he sells everything.
And Chris, what's that part of your personality or your background that makes you
I'm just from
that?
New York, man.
Oh, dude. Oh, no. I gotta
He's
say
from
something about
Bangladesh,
him.
I'm
No.
from Australia,
I gotta say
he's from New York.
something. The guy's a badass bass player. He's probably the most trained in the band.
By far.
By
He
far.
actually knows the notes that he's
Badass.
hitting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Reads music?
No, I did too.
Sometimes you're the right ones.
Then sometimes they're the right ones. Russell, I remember when we started rehearsing for those solo shows, and Russell was like, "So what's that? What chord do you start on?" I'm like, "This one." What chord is that? I don't know. What's the root note? The what? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
I just know when it works and when it doesn't. And the only reason I know when it works is
Thank
because
God you're
I spent
here, bro.
10 years not working.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Foo Fighters, they said that in an interview. They don't even know what the chords are.
They just know what
They
sounds
just know
good.
what sounds good.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
It's all about the feeling.
Yeah. If it sounds
You
good, it
can't
is
calculate it and put this
Yeah.
chord with that one. And
Sometimes it's better to be that way and just
Some of the
Go with
greatest
your gut.
producers are so good because they don't know much, because they go with their ear.
yeah,
Music is here.
it's about that feeling. You're about that Rick Rubin. He
Not
comes
here.
in, it's about
Yeah,
the feeling.
I think it's here and here, not here. If you start calculating music, then you lost it pretty much.
Yeah.
It's a math problem at that point.
Yeah, you can't manufacture a hit, you can't manufacture a band, you can't manufacture a show. You can accentuate what you do, but you can't create
everything
it.
is tapping into that emotion that resonates with everyone.
Exactly.
and
So
makes-
stop using this and start using this
Hey,
more.
don't talk to me about that shit.
Well, that's amazing stuff. So everything's happening organically. You know, you're going to add some touring musicians, you're going to keep on writing, everything's going to come together because it feels right.
Yeah. So what is it called? Going with the flow? Just
I'm going with the flow.
We're just
Rolling
living
with
every
the
day and
flow.
having
Yeah.
as much as fun as possible.
We are
doing
having as
what
much-
we
Not overly
fucking
calculating
love.
either.
Exactly.
But I think, yeah, that is an interesting point. That this is the band,
Yeah.
and unless someone was to walk in and be able to ante up to everything that we're putting in, because we're putting our blood and sweat into this now. You know, we wake up,
Do my
we're
hair.
scheduling everything
Yeah.
around this.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, unless there's someone else who's willing to put their lives on hold for it, who's willing to show up, you know, and that,
But it's
that can
more
be a
than just
big ask.
music. It can't be just music.
Yeah.
What else are you bringing?
Yeah.
You know?
Hopefully beer.
Definitely beer and
And-
vodka.
Yeah.
Definitely in. Definitely in. I don't drink beer, by the way.
It was 24 hours in
Jameson
a
and
day, and
Ladies, Jameson
know?
and ginger over here, if you're ever wondering.
well, that's it these days. You know, there's small groups of people that are achieving great things because they're multitasking or they have different sides of their skills that they bring to the table.
Like I said,
You know, the old days, you used to have these big companies with lots of employees, and now smaller companies, more streamlined, more synergy is winning.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what I said before is there are so many amazing musicians, unbelievable musicians, sitting in their basement place doing all these guitar things, and
Yeah.
oh, I'm so amazing. You're so amazing. Friends are telling me, but that's what separates everything. Is if you
Yeah.
don't know the business, all that means nothing.
Of
If
course.
you're wanting to have a career with that.
Yeah.
But if you're not, if you're just doing it for fun, great.
Yeah.
But if you want a career,
Yeah,
you
talent's
gotta
not,
know more business than that.
talent's not enough.
Yeah,
It's about.
Well, they say 10% talent, 90% what you do with it.
exactly.
I would say so.
The talent alone is not going to get you there.
Talent one has never gotten you
Because if
there.
you're shredding and doing all this crazy stuff, no one
Yeah.
knows about it. What's the point?
I think it's 50-50. I mean, you can have 10%
No,
talent.
it's
and get-
52.
It's
48.
50-50 because neither one exists without the other.
Right.
That's the only reason it's 50-50.
It's the yin yang.
Yeah, and you can, and there are a lot of people who have 20% talent and work 80% of the time just on marketing, and they'll get famous. But really, you got to sort of. I think it's important to us to be happy.
Yeah.
Happiness
think
is the
it's-
biggest thing.
It's
Well, that's
important to
it.
us to
Don't be in
feel-
You're
something
already
that you're-
successful
right.
if you're happy.
Dude, don't
Yeah.
be in
All the
something you're
other
not happy with.
units and
Yeah.
checks
And
and
we feel achievement when we create good music and we do good deals. When we do good business and we get to go into, Chris lined up Chad Smith at NRG Studios with Steve Slate and Chris Lord Alge. Those are four of the biggest names in the music industry.
Yeah.
And Chris made that shit happen.
a jackpot.
When
Exactly.
he made that happen, he did it with the song that we produced, and we all got to feel an achievement. It was his song that we placed, and we got to show up to a deal that he made, and we all got to feel a sense of achievement, and we got to share it together. It was 50-50. That's
Yeah.
very, very
And
important.
we don't fight about anything. We are equal partners
Yeah.
in everything.
Yep.
We do not argue that.
And it doesn't matter
Yeah.
what happens what day or who this and
Yeah.
who that.
It all equals out.
Yeah.
Because we all pull our weight.
Really
Yeah.
important, man. Really important. And that's what kids need to know.
And do
Because
your paperwork, for sure.
and get your contracts, man.
Get your
those
contracts.
Yeah.
How important
get a
that is.
lawyer.
know
You
what
understand
copyrights
that.
and publishing
Get a good
and
lawyer, man.
recruitment and
Anyone who has a problem,
You gotta know
if
You can be
business.
best friends, but
doesn't matter. If
doesn't
you got
matter.
if you got your best friend and you say, "Hey man, my lawyer drew this up. Take a look at it," and they say, "Oh no, I'm not going to do that." No, and they got a problem with it. They're not your friend. Trust me. I've worked with people. You show them a contract, and they go, "Oh, we need a contract. Oh, we need this. We need that." Or suddenly it's getting like we have to be accountable for our actions. That's not your friend. I've shown contracts to him, and they go, "Cool, email it to me. No problem. Whenever we can get
Yeah.
to it."
Because we've
It's
been
like
through
a
it. We know
non-event.
what happens.
It's
Yeah.
not a conversation.
Yeah.
It's just something that gets done. It's
yeah,
like writing
you
a song.
Tuck it in
When
the
you show
drawer
up.
and
And
keep
that
moving.
protects your friendship more than just talking
Yeah.
about it.
This is what people need to know.
Yeah.
Because no one talks about it. They talk about going on tour, getting fucked up,
Yeah.
music, blah, blah, that whole, the ambient
Well, especially
vibe
for the
of music.
longevity. You know, you can fake it for a little bit, but to have the longevity, the catalog, and a career.
Well, most importantly, just the life. We make music because it makes us happy.
Yeah.
What's the point of I made music for a long time, and it didn't make me happy. I made music, but I wasn't happy.
No.
So I could have made fucking chairs. You
You
know, who
actually don't
cares?
answer that phone call.
Yeah.
No, I'll get it later. But
But if you're doing that, you'll answer the phone.
It's like the answer roulette wheel.
Yeah.
you know
Well,
what?
any other? We're gonna go down the line. Any other little tips for young creative people coming up?
Really focus on your songwriting because it's great to be able to shred, but if you don't have a hit song, no one cares.
The songs live forever.
Songs are king. It's for everything. I think it's all about the song. What do you guys think?
I think get a good lawyer.
Protect your rights.
Protect yourself. It's not just about your rights, it's about your life. You know,
For sure.
And it's not about the shredding. It's about the song.
you can shred. I'll tell you.
Because the general public understands songs. They don't understand your shred.
Yeah.
You can sit there, practice, and see how fast you can go. A general person would understand the first and the last note. What happens in the between are the 3-4 notes that make them move. You gotta move people.
Shredding doesn't.
If you're shredding, you're being selfish.
It doesn't move people.
Yeah.
It doesn't really like the stuff.
Gilmore moved people.
Like, you see,
Yeah.
you think about the stuff where you can listen to 8 or 16 bars and suddenly you're somewhere else.
Yep.
Shredding doesn't get you there. It'll probably perplex you, confuse you, and make you feel a little bit anxious.
You
And,
gotta take people on.
and if you happen to play guitar, you'll get off on it. But
I
for
was
the
known as
most
a,
part,
I was known as a shredder.
Okay.
And everyone I work with doesn't even know I can do that.
yeah, he doesn't wait. He doesn't actually
Yeah.
show anyone.
You don't overplay.
I don't show anyone. 'Cause
He's
that's
got a
not
couple of solos in our stuff, but I got to tear it out of him. I got to get it out of him. I basically have to get him drunk and then drag him into the studio and plug the guitar in myself, and then he'll throw it
Wind
down
him
and
up.
forget he even did it, and he'll be like, "I played that."
Because I do solos just 1-2 take, right?
Yeah.
I don't really do more than that.
Every time we do a take, he's like, "Play it back." I'm like, "You just heard it." He's like, "No, I didn't. I was playing it. I don't know what I did. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just feel it out." He just plays it, and somehow he knows that that's correct scale. But he's like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I'll do 8 takes, and he wants to hear every one of them. And I think it's because he's vain, but he's like, no, I don't know what happened.
I really don't know what happened. You have to love music. You have to put yourself in a zone.
Yeah.
And that's when you don't know what's happening. You're just doing it.
And where can they find you on the web?
Boom. I'm out.
ScreamingAtDemons.com or go on our Facebook /ScreamingAtDemons. And if you want to donate to Homeless Rockstars and get the Rockstar song, just go to homelessrockstars.com or text Rockstar with your phone, all one word, to, what is it, 91999? And that'll do it.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Can't wait for the next chapter.
Thanks, man.